Benfica Podcast is one of the founding members of Benfica Independent. Benfica Independent is an independent platform made by fans for fans. And in it, you can find our podcast, along with many other podcasts, along with articles of opinion, video segments, and much, much more. We're also on patreon.com/Benfica Independent with exclusive contents for our patrons.
Hasta que no estás aquí dentro no sabes la grandeza de este equipo. Sí, es un club que tiene una grandeza que no se comprende si no estás aquí dentro.
Sendo uma magia única, benfiquista, que só nós sentimos assim. Por muitos desgostos que possamos ter, valores mais altos se levantam. E o valor mais alto que se levanta em termos futebolísticos chama-se Benfica.
Quero o Benfica intimidar o adversário. Quero um manto sagrado entrar com vocês em qualquer estado e assustá-los, pá! É isso que eu quero!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Talking to the Dog Benfica podcast. My name is Alfredo Fumacic. With you always on Tuesdays when we can, obviously. And with me tonight, I have a newbie, Paulo, also known as Red Baron. What's happening, my friend?
How are you, folks? First of all, let me thank you for the invite. And thank you, Chris and Dave, for the public service that you do here, guys. I really appreciate it. You're I'm sure I speak for a lot of people. You guys are our companion, our therapy sometimes, and many more things. Thank you for the job you guys do here.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And certainly, as most of you folks could see, there's no Dave and there's no Chris. Dave is still out. He'll be back next podcast. Chris had to do some personal stuff. He's going to try to jump in a little later. But in the meantime, I have recruited our friend Paulo, who we have seen on his chat so often. You know him as Red Baron SLB and also on Twitter. So how you been, man? It's good to finally meet you. Tell me a little bit about yourself. How does this passion for Benfica come about?
Well, it's a family thing, no doubt. My great grandfather actually played for the club, played from 1917 through 1921 or something to that effect. There's actually a picture of him in the museum and the teams that he played for and
That's
so on.
Awesome, man.
And that came from a long time ago. And, it's kind of right in the family. Let's put it that way.
Awesome, man. Well, that's a lot of people didn't know that. What is the name? Because next time I'm at the museum, I want to look for it.
The name is João Moraes.
João Moraes.
My mom's my mom's side of the family, my mom's grandfather. And he was there, I think, from 1917 to 1921, and then again around 23 to 24.
That's awesome.
But then the season would be complete of like 8 games. That's it. So they didn't have that many games for the club.
Yeah, but so before you even learned to speak, you probably had some Benfica memorabilia or shirts or swag on you before you even learned to speak.
Most definitely. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, welcome, and thank you for helping me out tonight with those guys being out today. So on tonight's podcast, episode number 492, we will look at the latest transfers, and there's been quite a bit of movement in the transfer market for Benfica. We'll look ahead to the Super Cup, that either dreaded or exciting game against Porto, or that anxiety of playing Porto. And we'll also look ahead to the Boa Vista game, which is the first game of the Liga Betano. Is it Betano now or B Win or what? They're always changing names. I don't know. What do you, Paul? Do you know? Is it B Win or
I
Betano?
honestly, I think this year is Betano, if I'm not mistaken. They may have changed this year if I'm not, induced into error. I think they changed this year.
Yeah, they're always change every year they change it, and that's because these companies are, I don't know if they get bought out or if now one is doing better, so they have this advertising investment. So I don't know, but before we get going, let me say hello to all the Freddies that are hopping on the chat. Robert Fernandez. Let me just bring this up to the live chat so I could say hello to everyone. Robert Fernandez, Justin Aragão, Paulo Rezende, Pedro dos Santos, Nick Valadão, Jason Gaidola, Redman 21, Diogo Reis, DJ Natural Fire. So there's quite a few of you here. Welcome and thanks for keeping us company. Paul Rezende says it's Bet Click. Between Bet Click, B Win, Betano, all words that start with the B. It's hard to keep track. Go ahead, Paul.
No, I was just going to say it seems to be the trend nowadays with betting sites. It seems that one from one year to the other seems to change the name. They're all betting sites to the best of my knowledge. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm not even sure how that is allowed, but that's
it's so weird, right? Because how are betting sites allowed to sponsor teams? Wouldn't we think that that's a bit of a conflict of interest when it comes to that, especially the ones that sponsor teams directly, not the league, but there's teams that they will have it on their main shirt, the betting site. That's so odd, man. It's so odd that a regulating entity hasn't stepped in and said, wait, that there's something wrong with this. Obviously, the money is too good for them to say anything, so they're staying quiet.
Everybody gets sponsored by them from the federation to the league, and it just it doesn't seem to cause an uproar with them because they're all getting money from them anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So since we're talking about money, let's talk about the transfer market. Biggest one, obviously, Gonçalo Ramos. Last week we heard some rumor. Well, we've been hearing some rumors about him going to PSG. This week, finally, officially, he was loaned. How it was presented to us, he was loaned to PSG with the buy clause that could be activated by either club. 65 million plus 15 million in objectives for a total of 80 million. His release clause, if I'm not mistaken, was 120. And there was a lot of people clamoring, why isn't PSG hitting the release clause? And the mechanics behind the deal is PSG can't buy Gonçalo Ramos this year because of the financial fair play, so they're making it a loan. They're giving, I think, 15 or 25 to Benfica up front for the loan deal, if I'm not mistaken. PSG also takes care of 5% of the solidarity mechanisms, which are the forming club and some finder's fees or whatever. And Benfica is going to take care of the 10% that is owed to intermediaries, which are agents and so on and so forth. Certainly, as Benfiquistas, not something that we were expecting. We were expecting, but I think, Paul, the timing of it all, a couple days before the Super Cup, a player of Ramos's importance, and I know that we were ready to lose him, but I think the timing and the fact that we're not going to be able to use him in a Super Cup, I think leaves a lot of Benfiquistas uneasy.
Well, it's just to put it plainly, great sale, absolutely awful timing. You can't have any worse timing than this. But let me tell you why I think it's such a bad timing. If you were playing a Braga or a Boavista or any other team other than Porto and Sporting, I don't think we'll be as concerned. But you're playing Porto, and that makes a big difference. This will probably give whoever wins this cup, this Super Cup tomorrow, I think will give them a psychological boost for at least the beginning of the season. And I think that's us as fans, and with the passion that we have a hard time understanding this. Keep in mind, it's 80 million. There's no one in Portugal that's going to refuse a sale like that, regardless. And we, as the as the seller, we don't really control it either. It's the buyer that has that time and to control that that purchase of the player pretty much. So I think it has to do with us playing Porto as the first game, and obviously the anxiety that you mentioned before. I think we're all worried about that, and let's see how it goes. If we depend on one player, then I think as a team we should be concerned.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, and I think that a lot of us were talking about the way things went down with Enzo in terms of not being prepared with a backup, and certainly a lot of people are thinking, well, we knew we were gonna lose Ramos, but no backup has come in as of yet. Now we're hearing rumors, and we saw Artur Cabral land in Lisbon, so he should be announced tomorrow or so. But certainly not the position you wanted to be in. Roger Schmidt spoke to the press today, and he said that they knew that they were possibly going to lose Gonçalo Ramos. They had a couple people identified. Roger Schmidt doesn't say that, but there was Jimenez from Feyenoord. Then there was the kid Beltran from River that we were looking at, and we were rumored that we were going to get, but this Artur Cabral just came out of left field. Nobody expected this. All of a sudden, it's like Benfica has confirmed Cabral, and I don't know if it was Fabrizio or whoever it was that announced it, but really came out of left field. And I don't even. There's a lot of people that didn't know Anthony or Artur. I don't know why I'm going to Anthony. Artur Cabral. Paul, did you know this player? Well, and if you do, what do you know of this player?
I'm not really sold on him, to be honest with you. And maybe because he fell off the radar a little bit, because he wasn't playing, a lot of minutes at Fiorentina this past year. I think he was sharing a lot of minutes with Jovic, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's the other striker for Fiorentina. But when he played for Basel, for Basilea, he did really well. I mean, he scored a ton of goals for them, and I think is a powerful striker. Trying to compare him with somebody, I always like to try to compare these players with other people, but I don't know if you remember Beto that plays for Udinese now in Italy.
Yeah,
it's that kind of player. He's a strong player, a physical player, but it's been off the radar for the last year or so because this Fiorentina season wasn't that great for starters.
Right.
He caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting him at all. And I think that may play Benfica's side because Benfica may have thrown a couple of names out there to kind of get the media, off track and then was ready for this guy. I mean, just like that, as soon as they had the confirmation on Gonzalo, they went for this guy right away. So this was something that was already planned.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, I think there's a lot of people talking about Gonçalo Ramos, Robert Fernandes being one. And timing seems to be the negative in Rui Costa's reign. Look, I think that, I was talking to Hugo and Cristiano earlier this week, and I said that the biggest thing is that us fans that consume what the media puts out, we're not always aware of everything that's going on. All the things in the background that are going on, the discussions, the amounts, we don't know what goes on. We are fed this narrative by the media, and we judge the club, and we judge Rui Costa, and we judge whoever's in charge based on the narratives that are fed to us, which aren't always accurate. It's good that Rui Costa will come out at the end of every transfer window and explain the transfer window to everyone, because I think that will settle some people. But the reality of it is that I don't know. I was using this example, right? So if I'm hanging out with Cristiano and all of a sudden we drive by a Lamborghini dealership and Cristiano goes in there and he goes, "I'm gonna buy a Lamborghini right now," and I'm thinking, man, but you can't afford a Lamborghini. How would I know if Cristiano can or not afford a Lamborghini? I never saw his bank account. I never counted his money to know. So all of these things that happen in the background, right? And there was a theory floated out there that Benfica really needed the money and this and that. And Benfica is tight on money because they're still paying for some of the Vieira investments and some of the payroll that Vieira brought in. We don't know. I mean, without being a CFO, I don't know if the club is healthy financially or not. We could see the reports every semester or whatever it is, and we could see how the club is spending their money. But there's a whole lot of things behind the scenes that we don't know about. And I think that we get caught up in just judging the narratives that the media puts out, and don't be dumb to the fact that a lot of the narratives that are put out are with intent. You know, whether they come from Benfica, whether they come from other people, whether they come from agents, we don't know. But these are the narratives that we're sold that oftentimes bring on some frustration, and we're flustered with the club that the club are doing these things. Obviously, there's things that are obvious, right? As you mentioned, great deal. The timing is awful. Would it be too much to wait for until after the Super Cup to sell Ramos? Probably not. But what Schmidt said today is that PSG was ready and they have a lot of buying power, and there was no negotiating.
It's their money, let's put it that way, and they decide when to buy it and if they're going to let him play again or not. And I think for any million euros deal, I don't think PSG was going to take a chance on it. We have our own example here with João Vitor. He played for Corinthians the last game, and he was out for 3-4 months. Okay, and he never was able to pick up a starting spot probably because of that.
Yeah, and we're also talking a game that will most likely be very high intensity. So it wasn't like we're playing a team in the Taça de Liga, or we're playing a newly promoted team, or whoever it is. This is a game that's expected to be intense, that's expected to be physical. And obviously, if you're spending that much money for a player with an obligatory buyout clause, it's not something that you want to take a risk on, right?
Exactly. Absolutely.
So, like as you mentioned, the timing is crappy, but certainly I'm not complaining. I actually think that Gonçalo Ramos is not worth more than 80 million or even 65 million. But we've been known to make good deals, and that's what it was. Now, in terms of Arturo Cabral, I brought up some stuff here. So he's rumored to Benfica is going to give Fiorentina 20 million. This is unofficial. He was the best scorer of the Conference League last season. With Fiorentina, he played 65 games, 19 goals, 3 assists. Fiorentina got him from Basel for 15.5 million. He arrived in Europe through Basel, and in 3 seasons in Basel, and granted, this is the Swiss league, right? So take it, with a grain of salt. 3 seasons, 106 games, 65 goals. So that's impressive. That's impressive.
Very bad. Braga actually scored 3 against Braga, if I'm not mistaken, on the Conference League last year.
Yes, that's absolutely right. He did score 3, and look, he just I don't know, man. I don't know what to think. Sometimes we're a little skeptical when it's these guys that we haven't heard of, that are not big names. But we have the example with Auschwitz last year. Nobody knew who Auschwitz is, and look how big of a role he came to play. I am much more encouraged by a player that's going to come in and be able to fit the system, that Roger Schmidt says, yes, this guy fits the system. He's a high-energy guy. He's physical. He's got a hard shot. So maybe this is the guy, and he could put the ball behind in the net. So this is a guy that maybe a target or a profile that we were looking for. I don't know, and I've always said, Paulo, and I don't know if this is your opinion. Benfica is a matador away from being much more successful or going further in the Champions League. I don't know. Is that your opinion, or do you think that were you always happy with what we had with Ramos?
I mean, don't take me wrong. My opinion of Ramos is very, very good. I like him. I think is a great player. Is he worth 80 million? I have my doubts. Don't forget, we were willing to sell him for 40 million last year, and we never did. There was the option was that supposedly we were going to sell him for an offer that would come in around 40 million. Well, with that said, I think that we're a little more away from a matador. I have to be honest with you. Yeah. I think we need another guy in the midfield that can handle another Enzo, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if we have him in Corkscrew. I be honest, I haven't seen that yet. But it's beginning of the season. Let's see how he does.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we needed a pure striker there that can handle. They can put in 30 goals per season, at least 25 to 30 goals. I think we need that, and we haven't had one for quite some time.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And that's been my discussion. If we had that, so many people hated Cardozo, right? But all the guy did was score goals. He didn't do anything else right. But all he did is score goals. And sometimes that's what you need. That's what Robert Fernandez, all Cabral really has to do is just put the ball in the net. Really. That's all I don't need him to fazer cuecas and do like fancy moves. I just need him to put the ball in the net. That's all we need him. That's what it counts. So we'll see. I'm encouraged because expect nothing and you won't be disappointed.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you there. I mean, we got lucky for a little bit after Cardozo because we found that Jonas, and we pretty much found gold with him. But I even think that Jonas, as good as he was, and as a goal scorer as he wasn't that Champions League striker that we needed.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, you could put him away in the Portuguese league, but he always had issues in the Champions League, and our teams weren't as good back then, or at least our coaching wasn't as good. Let's put it that way.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we could use a guy like Cardozo right now, but then
he's still playing today. He just got red carded today, from what I understand.
We only see the highlights of his goals. But
right?
It's the thing, and when you look at Roger Schmidt, obviously with the high press, he needs a forward that's gonna cover ground in terms of pressing guys, in terms of defending, in terms of shutting down passing lanes. So certainly, I don't know if Cardozo would fit in the system. I can't see Cardozo track back or press a defender, but certainly. In terms of scoring goals, he didn't need too many touches, and certainly
we didn't.
If we could,
eh?
that's right. If we could find a Cardozo caliber player, I'd be happy. I don't know. I watched a few highlights on Cabral. Like you said, I saw the same things. Physical, has a hard shot, as I mentioned. Is a guy that. I saw him do good combinations, but then again, it's a YouTube sample, so take it with the grain of salt because the highlights are the highlights after all. I've never seen something that has highlights and low lights, right? So take it with the grain of salt, but the fact that this guy just flew under the radar and Benfica was basically able to come to an agreement because it hasn't been made official, but what we know is that Benfica came to an agreement, and maybe that's why he's in Lisbon. The fact that he just flew under the radar and all of a sudden Benfica came to an agreement leaves me encouraged because I think, Paulo, and you could correct me, maybe 25, 30 players that have been associated with Benfica in the offseason, and then none of them have really come, and all of a sudden, here's Cabral.
Yep, absolutely, and I think that's a good stuff. I honestly think this was some names were thrown out there by the club to kind of offset this, this information, and then they already had this set up. There's no way they just decided at the last minute they're going to buy this guy after they sold Gonzalo. Knew they were going to sell Gonzalo. They had this kid already lined up, and obviously nobody was aware of it. And I think right there it shows that they're doing something well. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to Benfica Independent. If you guys haven't watched the José Boto interview video.
Phenomenal interview.
Yeah.
Phenomenal interview.
It really gives you an insight in terms of what a scout does, what a scouting department does, what are their directives is, the profiles of players that they look at, how they suggest to the technical staff. It's very insightful. If you like that type of stuff, I recommend that you watch that. It's available on both YouTube and podcast format. Definitely check that out so you can get an insight in terms of how scouting works. But certainly, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking that Cabral had to be on a list. I don't know how deep of that list was that fit the profile of players that we were looking for. And probably, I don't know if Jimenez was on top of the list. I don't know if Beltran was number 2 on the list, ended up going to Fiorentina, said, oh, Beltran's going to Fiorentina. Who's Fiorentina getting rid of? I don't know if that's what went on.
I don't know. They have Jovic, or is he still on a loan, or is he
I think
definite trade for them? I think he's on a loan with Real, from Real, right?
Yeah.
With Fiorentina, I'm not sure.
So that's why they're bringing the Beltran kid.
But is that a done deal though?
I don't know. That's what's
playing
rumored.
right now for River too.
That's what's rumored to that's what's rumored to be happening. But certainly, look, I think the fact that the guy is flown out of the radar, no one knew anything about it. He's a guy that he's only 25 years old, so I like the fact that he's that age. He was called up to the Brazilian national team, but did not make his debut. So it's a guy that obviously there's talent there. And we've seen the talent at Basel, and the numbers speak for themselves. But again, Swiss League, take it for what it's for. Fiorentina, he shared minutes with Jovic, and maybe that's why he didn't play as much. But let's see what happens. Let's see what happens, because what the other options that we have between Musa and Tankstead, I don't think those are the type of forwards that Benfica wants to head into the season with. Domestically, maybe we scrape by. In Europe, there's no chance that Musa is our starting center forward. And I would love to be proved wrong.
Now we're still one more forward away.
Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe
honestly, I don't think so.
Maybe Cabral is the answer to our prayers. And
hopefully,
and
fingers crossed.
Yeah, and in 2 months it's not even a mention anymore. So we'll see. The other movement in the market for Benfica, and again, not official, but Anatoly Trubin from Shakhtar, goalkeeper, 22 years old, 10 million plus objectives for 40% of the pass. And when I was talking to Cristiano, it's like, well, why don't we just give him 22 million and get 100% of the pass? Why we're only spending 10 million?
I think we're actually bought 100% with a pass. What we didn't do, we have to give him 40% of what they call the mais valias. In other words, anything above 10 million, because that's what we're paying for them. That's how I read the deal, at least, or the expected deal, because it's not official. We're paying 10 million plus 1 million objectives, and then if we sell them for 50 million, for example, okay, they get that difference between a 10 million and 50, those 40 million, they get 40% of it. So they don't actually own the pass. We own the pass 100%, but we have to give them 40% of a future sale, or 40% above the 10 million, whatever we sell it.
Yeah, look, I don't.
What they call it, mais valias, I guess.
Yeah, I don't pretend to understand these financial mechanisms. I mean, they're always doing something to get over on something, or there's some kind of a loophole. But certainly, when you look at and you spent 10 million on this guy for 40%, whatever it is, I'm a little bit more encouraged about Trubin than I am from Cabral, from a lot of things that I heard. Right, Botu.
I'll give you 2 years. 2 years. You won't stay here more than 2 years. I guarantee you that.
I hope so. I hope so. I think that that Trubin. Also, if you listen to that Botu interview, he talks about Trubin because Trubin's coming from Shakhtar, and he used to be a scouting director for Shakhtar. So he knows the kid, speaks highly of him, talks about how the kid is years above mature, is what he should be in terms of maturity as a 22-year-old. Speaks intelligently, has his head in the right place, can play with his feet, is good on crosses. And the question now becomes is how long till he takes over the the goalie spot? Do you expect that to be immediate, or do you think that Vlaco Dimos will continue to get a starting spot until there's some kind of a breakdown?
My opinion is that honestly, and this could always change if he doesn't get adjusted to the country or the team and so on. But I honestly think that we hit the jackpot with this kid. Okay, I mean, I know we're paying a sufficient amount, a lot of money. I know we're only bought, where we have to give him 40% of a future sale and so on. But this kid is everything that Adi is not. Odysseus, in all honesty, is great. He's a good goalkeeper. I wouldn't say great because he's not great. He's a good goalkeeper, but this kid is really good. This kid has everything that Odysseus doesn't have. He comes out, he's competent, he's aggressive. He is really good on short passes, breaking down that line of pressure like Porto is going to do to us tomorrow. With a goalkeeper like that, you could actually play and avoid that pressure. I'm going to say it in Portuguese. Ele pode ter aquelas linhas de passe. Ele pode fazer os passes nas laterais. Tu vês o Odisseias a fazer passe para a lateral e a bola vai para a bancada. While this kid, he can. You can have those wing backs wide and allow that pressure to dissipate. And this kid has it. He has to work a little bit on his long passes. Is still not as good, but he's 23. He just turned 22, I think. If I'm not mistaken, just a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
This kid is a great goalkeeper. I honestly think that right now, under 23, he's top 5 in the world.
Yeah. And somebody was saying, Jason Gaidola was saying, at goalkeeper, this has all the signs of Vlaco Dimos wanting out before the season's end. Could be a big distraction. I agree, because we've already seen something, when Vlaco Dimos temporarily lost a spot to Helton Milk. He was out on international duty. His agent was talking shit. So there was right off the bat. I mean, we're not even talking that the guy had been benched for a whole month straight. Right off the bat, his agent is talking. And usually the agents are the mouthpieces of the athletes, because the agents can't get fined. Athletes can. And I think at some point, Benfica did address the situation, but certainly we're setting ourselves up for maybe like a toxic type of environment in the locker room between those two. So I don't know how Roger Schmidt plans to handle that, but certainly I think we know, we've seen this movie before. I think we know how all of this is going to head. And to be perfectly honest, if Vlaco Dimos gets sold tomorrow, I'll take him to the airport.
Absolutely.
I'll take him to the airport.
I think
yeah,
and send him on.
I thank him for everything that he's done. I just don't think he is Benfica caliber. And from what we know, he's not a good sub. If he was a good sub, maybe there's something here, right? Because both of them feed off of each other. They train against each other, if you want to say that, and they just elevate each other as a result of the competing training that goes on between them. But from what we know, it's not going to bode well with Vlaco Dimos. So we'll see. He's making calls to his agent right now.
Maybe we'll be buying another goalkeeper, before the 31st of August. Maybe we'll be lucky then, and get one of those goalkeepers that we have in the Primera Liga here. I wouldn't put it past us selling him, to be honest with you. Which makes it a little odd is that we extended his contract just a few months ago, and that's a little odd. But then it gives us a little more negotiating. We have a little more negotiating room at that point.
Yeah, and look, he has a market.
He does.
He has a market. Cristiano's coming in. Let me let Cristiano in here. I know it's going to do all kinds of things to the setup here, but let me let him in. Hold on a second, people in the chat. All right, let me just. There he is.
Well, it's about time, sir. It's about time.
Peraí, let me just fix something here real quick. Zoom. Yep. Okay, Cristiano, you're going to be off the screen for now. We're just going to have Paul in here. All right. So, Cristiano, welcome. How you doing?
Got a massive headache.
You got a massive headache?
Yeah, it just got worse with you put my ugly face on the screen.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you're not here when we start.
Listen, I have a migraine, but I had to come espalhar the perfume on this podcast. You know what I'm saying?
Espalhar o perfume. You're funny.
You always do. You always do.
Red LeBaron, how are you, my friend?
How are you, sir?
Good.
I'm doing all right.
So meet Paulo.
Guys, what do you guys talk? We met Paulo. I think Paulo and I played back in the whatever. Just another thing. What's going on?
Yeah,
What do you,
back in the day, about 100 pounds ago, we played back in the 90s or something.
a long time ago. What are you guys talking about? Let's go. Let's get into the thing. Are we talking about goalkeepers, Gravalaco, Dimos? Vocês estão passados da cabeça, Spencer.
We're talking about Vlaco Dimos. That's what we're doing right now.
Will be out in the next 2 weeks. He'll be out. He'll be out of the squad before you say Trubin.
Before you say Trubin. No, we Cristiano, I'll catch you up. We will. We were talking about. We spoke about the Gonçalo Ramos sale. I don't know if you have a few words that your opinion that you want to.
Yeah, sure. You always got an opinion on anything.
Go ahead.
Gonçalo Ramos. It's real simple. At the end of the day, Alfredo and the rest of the Freddies, what's up? Don't forget to smash the like button, by the way. Listen, how do I put this? As you guys know, I've never been the biggest Gonçalo Ramos fan. So I'm not going to shed a tear seeing him leave. But that being said, it really ticks me off, right? I don't know if you guys touched on this, and if you didn't, I'll be the first. You know me, I don't care. I got a wide back. Go ahead, throw all the darts you want at me. But I really don't understand what the hell Benfica is doing. I would personally sell Gonçalo Ramos for the same exact price, and drive him to the airport, drive him to the cruise ship, whatever the hell may be, just to get him out of Lisboa. But at the end of the day, how does a club that knows that for whatever reason, either they need to sell a player because they need to get their financial straight, or as I guess apparently today Roger Schmidt said the player wanted to leave. I mean, obviously, this didn't just come upon them on Sunday evening. It just didn't. Oh, snap. By the way, guys, I want to leave. Oh, yeah, we need to. I mean, this has got to be something that's been in the works for weeks, okay, if not months. That being said, we went through the same saga in December and January with Enzo, and one of my biggest complaints was, how the hell does a club, knowing that they're going to lose a player for over a month, is not prepared to go ahead and attack and bring in a replacement at this, as soon as they finalize that deal to let Enzo play. And now this is playing out once again. Benfica is playing a Supertaça against their main rivals tomorrow. Estado Municipal Aveiro, my hometown, by the way. Beautiful hometown. But that has nothing to do with it. How the hell does this club not have a replacement lined up? How the hell is this club going to go into this game tomorrow against Futebol Clube do Porto with Peter Musa and Tankstedt as their main weapon, as the only options they have up top as far as strikers, as far as I know, unless somebody pops up out of the woodwork? It just makes no sense how, once again, they're not prepared for this. And I don't want to hear about, if they would have gotten a striker earlier, they would have dried up the market for listen, it doesn't matter. A club that is well prepared, well organized, that knows what it wants, that knows what its goals are, that has objectives, that wants to put an end to this bullshit that's gone on against Futebol Clube do Porto, and especially in Supertaças, 11-1 or whatever it is, pathetic. You're going to sell a player 3 days before this crucial match and not have a replacement lined up, or at least not lined up, because they apparently they got this Cabral. I have no idea this dude, but they have this guy lined up. What I mean to say is not have a Cabral, Amaral. It all ends with all. They do not have a player that should have been training with this club for weeks now to get acclimated, to get into the system, so he could go ahead and play tomorrow. It just smells of. And I know it's hard to say because we all love Benfica, but come on, bro. It
smells of Jorge Mendes, doesn't it?
Amateur. No, it's kind of, listen, even Jorge Mendes, guys. We got to stop pointing the finger at Jorge Mendes, okay? Because they're a tandem. The club and Jorge Mendes is a tandem. George Mintz didn't just show up at Porte in the main door where Di Maria was presented last week on Friday and say, hey, guys, by the way, look, I have an offer. Guys, it doesn't work like that. These things have been in the works. Okay? Just blame the club. At the end of the day, the club is the one that has to be prepared. The club is the one that has to have players lined up. I don't care about George Mintz. If you got George Mintz, well, get George Mintz to get you a freaking player to be prepared. This should have been done weeks ago, not 3 days before Supertaça.
The question here is, did we have the financial ability to do it without making sure that a deal like that was done? That's my concern too. And I'm starting to get a little bit concerned about that too, because I think we're spending way too much money. Honestly, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't like, in terms of financials, I don't like these last two deals. I do love the Gonçalo Ramos deal. I don't think that there was any offer anywhere near the 65 mil, and then with the 15 incentives or whatever. To me, that indicated there was nothing near. Okay, we're talking about very low offers, if any. So Benfica, look, if you want to tell me that look, man, they took the best offer, and ran with it, let's go. I'm okay. But if you're telling me now that the club doesn't have money, it just makes no sense. I don't like the Trubin deal. I don't like the 10 or 11 million for freaking 40% of a future trip. Come on, dude. I mean, it just it reeks of desperation.
Cristiano, we cleared that up.
Give me a sec. Run to Paul. I'll be right back.
On that note, no, we have to explain to Cristiano that those the 40% on a mais-valias. So we don't own only 40% of the player. It's
correct, and
right.
That's my understanding of the deal. Right. Obviously, it's not official. Once again, we don't know, but those are the rumors. And from what I read from the Gonçalo Ramos deal, it seems to have hit the spot. What they notified on the news, it was on the money. Literally, it was 65 plus 15. And on a loan deal, so PSG can avoid fair play. And I think the deal with Trubin is going to be pretty much the same. I think Shakhtar knows what they have, and I don't think Inter is willing to do that. Because I think they wanted to keep part of the of a future sale. And I don't think Inter was ready to do that, and that's what my understanding is. Not that Inter is going for the keeper that we wanted. Supposedly, they're going after Bent.
Right.
So, I keep my fingers crossed. I really have high hopes for this kid. I really think this kid is the real deal. I think he's going to have a lot of success. And we are a club that has an extensive experience with great goalkeepers. And I think, once again, it depends on a lot of variables, but I think this kid is going to be up there with the goalkeepers that we had that made a history at the club. I think the All Blacks and the Edersons, and this kid is going to be up there too. I really have high hopes for this kid. I really do.
Yeah, from your mouth to God's ears, right? Or whatever higher power it's out there. But look, I think that we don't even know. Maybe there weren't other teams out there willing to pay what Benfica was asking for Ramos. Maybe PSG was the only one. To the terms that Benfica wanted, or close to the terms that Benfica wanted. We don't know.
I don't think there was a lot of offers, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and then there's that whole financial fair play, that loophole that PSG has to go through in order to have the player. It's just, I don't know. It's like a weird thing. I'm happy that we sold him. I wish him all the best, except for when he plays against Benfica. And thank you for being a Benfiquista and for feeling the club. And I don't know of a lot of players that have decided to go to PSG, and that PSG was a stepping stone into them becoming the superstars that were expected. We saw.
It's a complicated club. It really is.
Renato Sanchez go, because the club is just messy. We saw Renato Sanchez go there. Nothing really good came out of it. Messi, they went and got Messi. Still no Champions League. Mbappe once out. Neymar does whatever he wants. It's a club in shambles, really. So
Really
I don't know if it's a good move career wise for Gonzalo Ramos, but certainly, hey, wish him all the best. Let me read some comments here before until Cristiano comes in. Diogo Reis is saying some Benfica outlets ripped Ramos for liking PSG tweets prior to being official. I didn't understand this. The deal was done. He was leaving. Let the guy tweet whatever he wants. Yeah, you're always going to find some guys that are not happy with things that happen. Robert Fernandez says, do we think Cabral, if it comes out good, stays for a while? Is the 20 million long-term investment? I mean, if you're spending 20 million on a guy, that better be a long-term investment, and you better do your darnest and hope that the guy raises his value through his playing. Again, the circumstances at Fiorentina were what they were. There's guys that don't adapt as well as everyone does. So we don't know the circumstances. I wasn't in the locker room. Certainly, splitting time with Jovic, and maybe Jovic was a player that fit the system better than Cabral. I don't know. I just hope that he becomes what we hope him to become. Paul Rezin says Jovic is a Fiorentina player. He signed with them on a free from Real Madrid. Yeah, I think I may have remember that. Let's see what else. Paul Rezin says Odi can go. I'll drive him to the airport. Same. Kevin says Bayern is apparently asking for Odi. And I know that he's got market. I know that Odysseus got market for sure. Diogo Reis says
There's a lot of people trying to drive him to the airport, aren't there?
Yeah, we just re-signed.
A lot of people willing to do that transportation to the airport. A little bow on top.
Easy. I'd even give him fresh water in the back, like an Uber driver. We just re-signed Vlaco Dimos, took pictures under the big Benfica shirt. Weird to ship him now. Diogo Reis says, but look, Diogo, it's all going to depend on what the player wants, because we've known now that Benfica's approach is, if the player does not want to be here, we're not going to hold them back, within reason. Obviously, we're not going to let the loonies run the loony bin, obviously, right? But there's a lot of things in terms of making sure that the players that are at Benfica are players that want to be there. Ricardo Teixeira says, I think he's going this transfer window. He's talking about Vlaco Dimos. He really is not happy with someone fighting for a spot. Yeah, that's what it was. We were just saying.
Odysseus was one meeting away from going to Ajax last year.
Yeah, he was.
The last day of the market.
Yeah.
And the financial director of Ajax said no, that he wasn't worth the 14 million or 10 million, whatever. And they canceled the transfer. So we were literally just one day away of getting rid of him.
Yeah. No, I remember that, because there was talks about Onana leaving, and correct. I think that's what Ajax wanted to do. Let's see what else we got here in terms of comments. The SLBES, I think you guys rate Ramos too highly. He scored 17 goals in the league. That's it, 17 goals.
But no PKs.
No PKs, right? All 17 goals came out of
the Taremi PKs. You would be up in the 30s.
That's exactly right. Look, I think that we all know that Gonzalo Ramos is not a matador. He may become a matador later on in his career, but through his work rate, he puts himself in a position to finish. Does he always finish? No, but he puts himself in positions to finish. He tries to anticipate defenders. He tries to get himself in a spot where it's just a tap in. And sometimes he gets it, sometimes he doesn't. His inconsistency was what bothered me, because he's missed some real sitters. Not Seferovic type sitters, but certainly easy goals. And then towards the end of the season, the fact that he just disappeared, much like Rafa and João Mario, was concerning. Because Benfica had all their eggs in the Ramos basket, because Musa barely played. Musa came off the bench and he started in League Cup games. Other than that, he didn't play much else. So the fact that you're depending on this guy and there's inconsistency to his playing, and maybe you could chalk that up to him being young or whatever. He's not the caliber of player that you want that's gonna win you games. Gonçalo Ramos is not that guy. So
yeah, I don't, like you said, I don't dislike him at all. I mean, I think he's a great player. I think he's a workhorse. I mean, he really is that first point of pressure, on the defense. As soon as we lose the ball, he is the first one to go get it. And I think he's a workhorse, but he's not a pure striker that we want. He's not that kind of player. He just is not. Is he worth 80 million? Well, we're selling him for 80 million. That's what matters, at this point. But do we need that pure? I think we need a pure striker, like you said, and maybe this Arturo Cabral will be it. Let's keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if you saw the video. So he stepped off a plane. He almost crash landed. Literally, you almost fall down the stairs.
I haven't seen that.
But now you didn't see. You got to see that.
I haven't seen that, but I do have to see it. Sheik Marcelino it makes a great point. If you had to guess, would you say that Cabral is going to score more or less goals than Ramos this season compared to last season? What do you think, Paul?
That's unfair.
I think he will. I think it will. It is unfair, absolutely. But I think as a pure striker, he's more of a striker than Ramos, no doubt about it. Okay, he takes PKs number one, by the way.
He does.
Okay, so you don't have to ask Romario to do him. So I think he's going to probably score about 20, 25 in the league. Yeah, I have no doubts, man. I really think so.
I hope so too, Maz. I mean, it's unfair. The guy needs to get adapted to Portuguese football. At the end of the day, it's too much pressure. Ramos had 2 years under his belt. Look, do I anticipate the guy to be a little bit better than we're all giving him credit for? Yeah, I think so. I've seen some of his videos, and there's some things I like. There's other things I'm not so crazy about. But I do like that he's got that poacher in him, and at the same time, he's a guy that takes shots from anywhere in the field. He's very powerful, very strong. Don't know much about his air game in terms of heading, but there's some things I do like. But to sit here and all of a sudden, I get it that he's coming in with a $20-25 million price tag, but to sit here all of a sudden, it's all about. That's why I'm having seen goals this year. I think, look, let's pump the brakes. If he does it, that's great. Hey, well, listen, I'll take it. But, let the guy come in. Let's see what happens. Let's see if he fits into this club. I like to think at least whoever picked him out has an idea where he's going to fit on the team. So I don't want it to just, mandar uma seta ao quadro e apareceu aquilo, and that's the one we're buying. But let's, I'm just saying, I expect good things out of him. At least I hope as a Benfiquista. But 25 goals in his very first year, bro, I just think it's too much to ask for at the beginning.
That sounds like a good challenge.
If Seferovic scored 25 goals, I think Cabral is going to score at least 20.
I'm with you, Cristiano. I've seen some things that I like and some other things that leave me a little bit, But, I mean, if he could put the ball in the net, I'm all in. So.
SOBs is asking you guys this regarding Musa. I mean, not now, bro. We've been.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't know. Look,
Musa is good off the bench. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. Musa is a role player.
He's been good.
I honestly think that he's been good at doing that. Coming off the bench and scoring his 1-2 goals, playing 15, 20 minutes, and puts it in the net once or twice. But other than that, do you guys really think you would be a first choice? I honestly don't think so.
I don't think so. I think our first strikers are going to be Amaral up top, João Felix right behind them. And I think that's where we're going to go.
João Felix. Estás doente, pá. Well, Cristiano has inside information that we don't. So
no, that's not spreading rules. See what I'm saying? This is how it starts. Tomorrow's going to come out on Capa da Bola. Benfica podcast. No, Benfica podcast said nothing. I just palpite. Right? What do you guys say in Portuguese? Palpite. I got no insider, nothing, bro.
Yeah. No
insider here, none of that. Stop it.
I think that's a good benchmark for Cabral. 17 goals. Does he score 17 goals? So let's leave it at that. Chris, what's your take on Anatoly Trubin? And let me tell you, the 40% is for mais valias. We own 100% of his pass. Don't ask me what that means. But Paulo has already explained it. Bigode a Benfica was here. He also said mais valias. Chris, you there?
I think you stepped away.
All right. Let's move on. Super Cup. Super Cup is what we have here. Always the Super Cup. Always playing against Porto. Takes place this Wednesday at 8:45 local time at Estádio Municipal de Aveiro, as Cristiano mentioned. Ref is Luís Godinho. We found out today that Luís Godinho, at least it's not Artur Soares Dias or João Pinheiro, at least. So it's good for that. Benfica have won one game out of the last 5 games they played against Porto. Paulo, what do you think it is? You think it's that medo cênico, that stigma that we have to play against Porto? Are we Porto's bitch?
I'm afraid that we are. There's some kind of psychological barrier there lately that that we can't put behind us. And unfortunately, I have to be honest with you. I mean, focus on this game. Obviously, I think the team is going to do the best they can. Will it be tough? Yes, it will. It will be intense. Yes, it will be. Physically, I don't think the intensity is still going to be there because it's the beginning of the season. But this is a classical. Players are going to be pumped up. We're going to be pumped up. And I think we may have a surprise tomorrow, on the starting lineup. I think he may not even play with a striker tomorrow just to upset some of this pressure,
Yeah, and that's where I was going to ask you guys to give me your lineup, but I'm with there. I'm there with you, Paul. I do think that he's going to go to a very mobile front. Because I think that if we play with Musa's going to be getting eaten alive by Pep and Marcano, whoever the center back pairing is. Those guys are older, they're slower, and I think that if we go in with that very mobile front with Neres, Rafa, Di Maria, and Auschnitz as that front four, it's going to change a lot of. We're going to give Porto different looks. And even though they're going to be prepared for it, because there's a plan B that Porto may be looking at in terms of, does Musa play? And if Musa doesn't play, they're going to go with Rafa up front as almost like a false 9. And then you're going to have all this movement in front of the defense by these guys going in and out of spots, almost like that carousel play that we say in hockey, right? Nice hockey, that carousel play. Guys just rotate around the ball. And I think that this will probably be, for me, the best plan also, for the reasons that I said. That backline is older. You're going to have to pull them off position, and you got way too many guys making runs in and out of those spots in between lines. So I think it would be good for Benfica if we do play without Musa, to be honest with you. And then Musa could come off the bench if we need a presence in the box.
I agree totally. I think I'm not quite sure about this, but I don't know if you remember when Lage was the coach when we beat him at Porto 2-1 or 2-0, something to that effect. I think the front line may have not had Seferovic back in the day. I think it was on the bench. It may have been João Félix and Rafa up front with that those two mobile forwards, and I think he worked out. And he maybe do the same thing this time around. Without a striker up there. And what we'll do, and if you're a central defender and you guys played soccer, you know this. If you don't have someone to mark, someone to that you can follow there, you have a hard time. These kids are gonna probably fall back a little bit and then try to catch the back of the defense. And Porto's defense, the central defenders are slow. Well, they are slow, and those mobile forwards may take advantage of that.
Yeah, they could try to play a zonal defense where what Pep gets whoever steps into his zone. But certainly with the speed in which we play and the dynamic and the combinations, it's going to be hard for Pep to always be stepping into the guy that shows up, because by the time he steps, there's a good chance that ball's already been played away. Now Pep has stepped out of his line and he leaves space behind him. So I think a lot of the strategy is going to revolve around that, pulling Pep out and pulling Marcano out. If Marcano is going to be the center back pairing with Pep, pull him out of position and then let these guys through their runs, through their creativity, break that defense apart. I'm not too concerned in terms of the rest of the defense where they got Zaidu and Pepe or which are not the best fullbacks. But look, I think that Porto again sees themselves in a right position, right? And their narrative that they're going to paint to their fan base and to their players is like, look at Sporting, look at Benfica. They went out, especially Benfica, and spent this inordinate amount of money to bring guys. Look at us. We're basically got guys that we picked up from Famalicão. We got a couple of guys. We got a guy from Barcelona that he's coming on loan, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and another guy that's coming from Boca. But here we are. It's us against the world. Sporting went out and got this big center forward that apparently really good. Benfica got Di Maria. They got this guy. They got that guy. Look at us. This is what we have to fight against. So again, they will create a narrative of underdogs and us against the world, which they have used so much to their advantage that again, they rally the fan base behind them, because the fan base has to be upset, because where did all the money go from all these players that we've sold? And they haven't had buying power for a good 4 or 5 years now. Porto hasn't, right? What's being done in terms of bringing the signings or the acquisitions that Sergio Conceição has? And they will rally, it's us against them, and they will rally the fan base based on that narrative. Look at Benfica. They got all these shiny new players. They got these great players. And don't forget that this is an extremely important season, because at the end of the season, only the champion will get direct qualifying into the Champions League. And I believe that the second place team has to go play a terceira eliminatória, if I'm not mistaken. So all that money is up for grabs, and you kind of need to position yourself in a way that you're going to be able to fight for that position. And I think that Porto does not have the weapons that Benfica has. I don't think that Porto has the team that Sporting has. And let's not discount Braga, because Braga has been building a little squad here and there. And I think that it was Paul Resendes that was saying he was watching the replay just now. And despite playing against a team that's not all that great or from a known league, they're pretty well rehearsed. And the fact that they're kind of replicating what Benfica did last year in terms of the team was at a very high standard very early on in the season, because they had to play these very important games to make it to the Champions League. And there's a good reason, or a good chance that Braga again is going to be flying under the radar and is going to put a run of games together in the beginning of the season, much like what Benfica did, because their preparation, the level that the players have had to be at, has started much early than Benfica, Porto, and Sporting.
They're a couple of weeks ahead of us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they started a couple weeks before.
For sure. So it's this whole narrative that Porto is trying to create, and I think we have to be smart. We have to, when we have a chance and they're down, kick them. Don't give them another chance to get up, because apparently that's what Benfica has been doing these past years, is giving Porto an oxygen balloon. And the times that we could bury them and be able to really take the next step and increase that gap, we really haven't done that. And I think this is the season to do that, especially when we are expecting Sporting to be competitive, we expect to be Braga to be competitive, and Benfica has the obligation, because of the players that we've signed, because of that we're the champions, as the obligation to be extremely competitive, if not the number one candidate for the title, because of the off-season acquisitions that we've made. Paul, what do you think a loss in a game like this can do? I think you've already said for Porto it would be great for the morale. But does this affect Benfica?
I think it affects every time you lose to somebody like a Porto, which is our biggest rival, like Chris said, or to even a Sporting. It always affects you. I mean, but then you also have a situation where you beat Sporting 5-0, and then you collapse at the end of the season, like during the largest season. You won the Super Cup, you beat them, you had a great game, you beat Sporting 5-0, and then you do really well until January, and then you collapse. So it's you can't look that far ahead. But will it impact psychological? No doubts. It certainly will. At least for the first couple of games of the season, it certainly will affect whatever the losing team is.
Yeah, because
And it will boost on the other end. It will boost the other team.
yeah,
It will give them that boost that you could go through 3 or 4 games and win them and start building momentum like we did last year.
yeah. No, I completely agree with you, and I think that albeit psychological, the fact that we've only beaten Porto once in the last 5 times that we've played them. If we could get this win this early on, and regardless, Super Cup is a Super Cup, it's still a trophy, but in the grand scheme of things of the season, if we don't hit the Super Cup, if we don't win the Super Cup, we can't say that the Super Cup was one of the objectives that the team delineated for the season, right? So it's almost inconsequential, but the mental edge that you could get said, "Fuck, we split the series with Porto last season. We won one, we lost another one, and we continue to lose to them every time we play them. Let's get this one on. Maybe this is the momentum that we need to go further in the season." And I think that if Porto wins, they're going to say, "Look at Benfica. They went out, spent all this money, and look at us with a couple Joe nobodies. We can still beat them. We still live rent free in Benfica's head."
That's part of the problem. I agree with you. That is, I think they have gotten to our heads, and we seem to have a hard time dealing with that. And specifically the last 3-4 years, it's been an absolute disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of does Otamendi start for you?
I think it does. Unfortunately, I think it does. I think I would go with Murato, but I think he's going to start Ota.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't. I'm very conflicted in terms of that choice, right? Because I know what Otamendi brings.
Yeah.
He's only played 45, or I think it was a little bit over 45 minutes against Burnley. So game speed, right? But we don't see the trainings. We don't know what goes on at the Seychelles. We don't know if he's ready to go. We don't know if they're having scrimmages at a good pace, right? That would put him in a position. But I think that the fact of the matter is, the context of this game, you need somebody like Otamendi in there, because if anything,
you need your captain. You need your captain in the
Yeah.
field, and that's the only reason that I'm saying he's going to go for Otamendi. You need that captain. You need that leader. You need that influence on the other players, that experience. You need him on the field.
yeah, and he's also a guy that, while the rest of the team may quiver, right, or may get scared if something happens, he's not a guy that's going to turn his back. He's not a guy that is going to turn his back on a fight. He's a guy that's going to fight regardless of whether the game is 0-0, 1-0, or whatever it is. So I think that we need a presence like that in this game. Lineup for you. I know that you already mentioned the front line. What's your midfield pairing?
I would probably go with Tino and Koksu. I think that's going to be. I didn't like the way Arsnes and Koksu played on the on the Feyenoord game, and I think the Burnley game too. I didn't like the way they looked. To be honest, maybe it's just a lack of entrosamento, a lack of playing together. But honestly, I think he's going to go with Tino to hold on midfield and give a little more free reign to Koksu on the midfield. On the right side, you're probably going to see Di Maria. On the left, I think Arsens is going to play a crucial role there to stop Pepe from going up the right side. And the question is Ristic or Jurasek? I don't know.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know. I would go with Ristic right now. I think it looks a lot more solid
Yeah.
than Jurasek. I think Jurasek is the prime example of what Apple we bought last year. I know if you recall, Gilberto started the first few games, and then as Ba got more accustomed to the style of play and better physically, I think he had a couple of injuries in the beginning too. And then he just took off and owned that right side of the defense. But at this point, I think Ristic is the best option on the left side of the defense.
I'm with you on that, and I think that Porto is going to be looking to explore those areas. If you recall, what they always used to do is they used to pump the ball between Grimaldo and the center back, and that's where Marega would go get the ball in that space.
Yep.
And I think they're going to try to take advantage of that because they know that our fullbacks go up quite a bit. I'm with you on that. I think that Tino and Kokshu should be the ones in the middle. I got Vlaco Dimos, Ba Silva, Otamendi, and Ristic, Tino Kokshu, Di Maria on one side, Auschwitz on the other one, Neres behind Rafa. That's how I have it.
That's exactly my lineup right there. Rafa and Ned.
That's
Neres behind Rafa, and Rafa is and those two up front.
That's how I think that Benfica could be successful against this Porto team. And again, what we were just talking about in terms of the dynamic of that front line and not be static and just basically be in the middle of two center backs, and you're going to be very easy to nullify, right? I think that adding movement to that front line is ideal. The other question that I had, what minute does Di Maria get hurt?
Depends on Pepe's mood.
Depends how close he comes.
I think they're going to go in hard. They're going to go in strong on him.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the only reason why I was a little skeptical about putting Neves as a starter. But, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I thought maybe Neves would come up, as a sub. But, you could always put somebody else up front and bring Neves to the right. But I know they're going to go at him hard. They will.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. They're gonna go at all the players hard, especially the new players, right? Because the new players have to be welcomed into this rivalry. They have to know what it means to play against Porto, and that's going to be some of the words out of Sergio Conceição's mouth. Is like, yeah, let's welcome Kokshu to this rivalry. Let's.
The good thing about it is this referee doesn't play games either. So this referee, I actually like this referee. And I think that he's going to be. I don't think he's going to be intimidated. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
like João Pinheiro was, or to do the miserable job that Artur Soares Diaz always did. I don't dislike this guy. I think he's a solid referee. So hopefully he'll start handing out yellow cards if the game goes a little off track.
No, I hold Godinho. I think Godinho is one of the better refs in the league.
Yeah.
Chico Marcelino saying if Murat goes to the bench, will be super unfair, given that he was the best player of the preseason, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm with you.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, Paul Rezende is saying, guys, Neres needs to play at right wing. It's his best position where he plays his best, while Di Maria would be better in the middle. Yeah, I think that there's no set positions for those guys, with the exception of Auschwitz, which I think that he would be in that spot, that left center mid position. I think the other guys up front, Rafa, Neres, Di Maria, they're all going to move around. I mean, I even expect Auschwitz to get into it, but I think that Auschwitz is going to be more of a player that's going to balance our team when there's so much movement from these guys up front and they're going to be pulling out of position. I think that Auschwitz is going to be the guy that's going to drop into the midfield, help out on the defensive transition, plug some holes. I think that's what Auschwitz is going to be. But in terms of the other three guys, I don't think there's a set position for these three guys, because they'll just go in and out of spots, combining, finding little pockets of space. That's what I think. So, look, I have good hopes for tomorrow's game, but I think that we all have good hopes ahead of Porto games, and then it's always the same. It's always the same shit.
We'll see. Keep our fingers crossed. I think we need to focus. The team will be focused. Let's see how it goes. Like I said, keep our fingers crossed and just let's play the best they can play. That's all. I trust them. They are national champions. They know what they're what that
obviously.
jersey means at this point. So
I think that there was a lot of things to be taken out of the matchups that they had with Porto last year. I think we all know what Porto is all about. Even Vlaco Dimos knows they're a shit team, and by the way, he's going to get fined or punished for that comment in a Netflix video.
I have to be honest with you. Whoever let that stuff out in Benfica, marketing or Benfica communication department needs to get fired. With all due respect, that thing should have never came out. Never.
You got to think that you to punch the jeito, right? You put yourself in a position where this may.
They didn't lie.
Right.
They didn't lie. But that should have never came out. And whoever the director of communications in that team needs to be thrown out, to be honest with you. Not that he shows up anyway, but I think he needs to be fired, that guy.
Yeah, as innocent as they may be, right? And in the same manner that Neres, it's all banter. It's really all banter. They're not saying SLB filhos da puta, SLB, that's a different story. It's all banter. It's all
dentro do balneário. You say many worse things inside of balneário.
Yeah.
But with all due respect, it should have never came out.
Yeah, Paulo, I completely agree. Even the video could have stayed, and you just lower his voice, whatever. Just
find a voice, do whatever you have to.
Like a Pete, maybe a Pete.
A dumb mistake on our part.
Anyway,
it will affect the player because he will be suspended. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah,
he's going to be suspended,
and now there's
just hopefully not tomorrow morning.
There's a chance for Trubin to come and play.
True, we got to put Samu back in there.
Yeah, after Porto, we will play Boa Vista in our season curtain raiser, and that game will happen on Monday, August 14th at 8:45 at Estádio do Bessa. That will be Benfica's first game of the season. So after playing on Wednesday, we'll be back in action on Monday against Boa Vista in what we hope is a season that will end up bringing us to 39th. So good. That's all we got, Paul. What you got? Anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, that's pretty much. I just wanted to thank you once again for the invite.
Absolutely, man.
Everybody in the team here that for the opportunity to kind of share my views. Like I said, long-time viewer here, and this is awesome. I really appreciate it.
I was happy to have you, man. We always see you on a chat box, and you always have good opinion, and you always have good angles. So we've been talking about getting you on for a little bit. It's just the schedule sometimes don't match, but I'm glad that you were able to come on and fill in for Cristiano and Dave, and you did a good job. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate it once again.
Yeah. All right, everybody. We're gonna go now. Cristiano, wherever you may be. Thank you for coming on for all of 2 minutes and 34 seconds. We'll see you again next week. Thanks to all the Freddies that were in the chat. Everyone was very active, and it's good to see you guys excited about the season, discussing the season. All of you guys are willing to spend your gas money to take Vlaco Dimos to the airport. Vocês são os bondosos, pá. São os mãos largas. All right,
we'll pay you an Uber.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much, Paulo. Pleasure. Cristiano,
Take care, folks. Thank you once again. All right. Have a great night, everybody.
See you next week. Take care.